the last video, I broke down why many riders struggle with a Heelside hand slide. In this video, we'll go through the key steps to improve it and make your hand slide more stable and consistent. Step 1 for improvement. First, loosen your boots. Among the people who came to my lesson and said they couldn't get low, many of them were wearing very stiff boots, tightened extremely hard. In general, people say stiff boots are better for carving. But if you want to get low, put your hands down or touch your hips to the snow. Softer boots make it much easier. Here's what happens when your boots are too stiff. The tongue is extremely hard, so when you try to flex your joints, there's a gap between your calf and hamstring and you can't go any deeper. This is especially true when your boots are tightened firmly. So first, try loosening the tongue of your boots a lot. Adjust the tightness so that your calf and hamstring can touch when you flex your joints. You'll probably be shocked at how loose they feel, but with them that loose, you can really flex your joints deeply. When you loosen your boots, they get super soft, which makes it way easier to flex your joints and reach the board with your hands. If the boots are too stiff, you can't flex your joints all the way and end up stopping halfway. Of course, stiff boots do have a benefit. The moment you flex your knees, the tongue reacts quickly and your board gets on edge immediately. But that makes your posture tall, so your hands can't reach the snow easily. You could lean your body, but that's scary and hard at first. So I think softer boots are better. Even now, I still ride with my boots very loose. If you were competing in timed gate racing and you needed to push downward through each gate, a stiff tongue might be better. But what we want is to get the board on edge deeply or ride lightly. And for that, softer boots are actually better in my opinion. Step 2 for improvement. Train in front of a mirror. Seeing your own posture is the first step. Lay down a mat, put a full body mirror in front of you and start by checking your stance. Check how low you can get. Lean your body and see what kind of posture you take. For your heel side form, try different amounts of flexing your ankles, flexing your knees, and hinging at your hips to see what looks good. If you do this before riding on the mountain, the difference is huge. So try pulling your pelvis back or pushing your upper body forward. Experiment with many positions. If your heel cup touches the snow surface, your edge will lift. This happens often in riding, so you must fine-tune your posture in real snow. Physically, if the edge releases, no matter how skilled you are, you will slide out. I tried to keep the mask on, but it turned into a sauna, so off it went. Step 3 for improvement, practice body axis turns. You will ride using only body lean along your body axis, so make your whole body one straight axis. Extend your knees and hips fully. There are many kinds of body axis turns, but this time I'll show you what I call the Tanasan Style body axis turn. Imagine extending your foot line forward and placing your head and center of mass on that same line. Try to create that axis first, even if it feels unnatural. On flat ground it's impossible, but with speed and centripetal force you can bring your head forward while keeping your body in a straight axis. When you try to make this axis by leaning forward, your left pelvis will move forward, and that can feel scary if you're not used to it. So many people unconsciously pull their pelvis backward along a diagonal line to hold themselves, which causes the hip attack posture. I'll make another video for people who fall into back seat or hip drop positions and explain this in more detail. The main point is it's 100 times more forward than you imagine. If you keep going lower, you'll eventually be able to touch the snow here. To reach that spot, you need to hinge at your hips deeply. After you create the diagonal forward axis with your upper body leaning forward, hinge at your hips properly and your posture will look like this. You extend your front knee so your body doesn't go too far forward, and you hinge at your hips to bring your center of mass back slightly. If you don't hinge and don't extend your front knee, the edge resistance will push your body forward, making you too front heavy. Then your tail becomes light and starts slipping, the common problem everyone talks about. Now I'll demonstrate the Tanasan Style body axis turn. From here you get this kind of axis. I feel an incredible amount of pressure on the high back of my front foot. I'm not pulling my hips back here, I'm actually sending my upper body diagonally forward like I mentioned earlier, and that creates this kind of axis. This is the kind of body axis turn-based riding you get from that posture. It's not about touching your hand to the snow yet, it's about creating body lean. If you then start flexing your ankles, knees and hips appropriately while leaning, you can create this kind of riding. To help you understand body lean better, Here's a clear image. There is a motorsport in Japan called auto race, and when you watch how those riders corner their bikes, you can see there are some similarities with snowboarding. In those banked corners, the riders lean their bodies about 45 degrees to the left as they go in. I have never ridden one of those bikes myself, but it looks like they are moving their body in the direction of the white line, almost separating their body line from the bike. In snowboarding, I do something similar on my Heelside turns. I dive into the inside of the corner and move my body in the same direction as that arrow. Of course, the angle or the point where you dive in changes depending on the board. For example, the Ogasaka CT is designed for carving, but the nose is not particularly long or stiff, so compared to my usual board, I approach the turn with the board angled a bit more sideways. And I also adjust depending on snow conditions. If the nose feels like it might get stuck and dive into the snow, I shift my approach slightly backward and diagonally forward. People often say you should pull your hips back diagonally on the heel side turn. I think the idea is to avoid leaning too far forward. I also ride that way sometimes, and there are many YouTube videos explaining that technique, but if that method does not work for someone, what I want to say is that it is totally fine to lean a bit more forward. As long as you do not lean excessively forward, pulling your hips back is still a valid option. However, if you try to lean deep enough that your hand or hip touches the snow, you need a posture close to a forward fold. That requires good flexibility and enough strength in your front leg to handle the force when you fully extend it. The centrifugal force becomes quite strong, so you need the flexibility and posture to control it. Considering that, not everyone can ride like that. Younger riders in their 20s might be fine, but many adult snowboarders struggle with a heel side technique that requires strong backward weighting and fully extending the front leg. That's why I personally prefer a technique where you move your body forward into the turn. It is easier and puts less strain on your body. So this time I'm teaching that approach. On a heel side turn, you push your front leg in the opposite direction while bringing your body into the inside of the turn. In auto race, riders stick out their leg to balance. Translating that into snowboarding, your left hand plays a similar role to the left front leg. You lightly place your hand toward the inside of the turn. It is only a touch with no weight on it. If your hand touches the snow, you know that angling the board more will cause drag, so you can even use it like a drag sensor. But the main thing supporting you is always the edge. When you compare the movements, the way auto race riders corner and the way we make a hillside turn in snowboarding are surprisingly similar. When you look at the slope, imagine drawing one line straight down the fall line and another line straight across the slope. You want to lean in the diagonal direction between those two lines, about 45 degrees. Keep your front knee extended and bring your hand toward the inside of the turn. I've said this many times, but if you don't extend your front knee, your center of mass moves too far forward, so be careful. In the first half of the turn, lean 45 degrees to the left, and in the second half, move your center of mass slightly back. That allows you to come back up. A common mistake. Keeping your body axis like a straight pole is good, but if you tilt it too much, you won't be able to bring yourself back up. When that happens, you end up staying on your heel edge too long and eventually fall at the end of the turn. Your body axis is extremely important, but relying only on the axis has a limit to how much you can lean. And just flexing and extending your joints alone won't make you ride either, so you want to take the good parts of both and mix them. That gives you the ideal movement. If you try to ride using only your body axis, you end up like this, leaning too far and unable to stand back up. That's why you need to lean out. Bring your upper body up, including your pelvis, so your center of mass doesn't fall too far inside. That allows you to connect smoothly into the next turn. When you lean out, sometimes you bring your pelvis straight up so it's vertical to gravity, and sometimes you bring it slightly diagonally. It changes depending on the type of turn you want or the situation, and most riders adjust it unconsciously. A common mistake is trying to lean out but dropping your head toward the toe side like this, making a K shape. Like I said earlier, when the board flattens and your body folds that way, it means your body is turning sideways. Of course, if you ride a duck stance with something like 6 degrees and you can't face forward because of your setup, then that can happen. But with our stance angles, 36, 24, 27, we can rotate the pelvis forward or diagonally quite well. With this type of setup, you rarely end up falling toward the left side like that. You either bring the pelvis up vertically or slightly diagonally. Now, let's practice putting your hand on the snow. Doing this suddenly on a real slope can be scary, so we start on a mellow slope at a very slow speed. Here I'm taking a very low stance on purpose and keeping a strong back foot bias, something like 70 to 30. From this position I extend my front knee a bit and get my board on edge. Since there is almost no speed, the board will not go up much and you cannot extend your joints that much either, but this level is fine. Once the board starts to rise, I send my upper body diagonally forward at about 45 degrees. This creates the leaning shape you see here. The movement of leaning forward can be scary at first, so this drill helps you get used to that feeling. Let's do it again. At this point, I want you to stay low enough that you could touch the snow on the toe side. It is okay if your back foot sole and calf are almost touching each other. From this low stance, keep your weight back, extend your front knee to get your board on edge, then lean diagonally forward. This is what it looks like. So first step is keeping a low stance and leaning diagonally forward. Now, let's look from the front. My front knee is more flexed than usual because the slope is mellow and there is not much speed. With less speed, there is less centrifugal force, so you cannot get your board on edge by extending your front knee. If you try to force the board up with no speed, you will lose balance and fall. So I keep my front knee more flexed here. On a mellow slope, I think the best rhythm is to let your hand lightly touch the snow and then come back up. Here is a common mistake. On the right side, the correct version, the body lean is the base, and you flex and extend your joints. On the left side, the rider is just extending the front knee in place and dropping the hips straight down like a vertical line. This is the key difference. Dropping straight down does not match the centrifugal force, so you end up falling. On the correct version, you lean toward the inside of the turn and adjust your joints to match that force so the posture stays balanced. You can also see it in the head position and the direction of the upper body. When the body leans toward the inside, your eyes look inside the turn, the upper body turns slightly inside, and the pelvis faces forward or slightly diagonal, but if you just drop in place, your pelvis turns sideways and your belly button faces more to the side. The shoulder line also changes. In the incorrect version, you can see the right shoulder. In the correct version, the shoulders rotate slightly and create a stable line. Many people who fall often have a large space between the right shoulder and the left knee. It becomes a big L shape. You can still ride in that shape, but the balance is extremely difficult. And if you fully extend the front knee, you cannot do anything from that position, so you will end up falling. In the correct shape, the upper body and left knee are much closer. You rotate your pelvis and hinge at your hips to make that space smaller. With that posture, keeping your right arm level with your shoulder gives you balance. Your arm has a bit of weight, so it helps stabilize you, similar to spreading both arms horizontally when connecting turns. To create that stable space, hinge at your hips, but keep your chest facing forward. When you bring your upper body over, place it toward the slope side or the inside of the turn. Do not bring it toward the toe side. You can probably understand most of the body lean and joint movements from this video, but I also started a new project for riders who want more detailed feedback. I brought back the video analysis service. Before, I used to offer a free 1-point comment when you sent me your clips. This time I go a little deeper and look closely at your riding and explain what you should focus on. I think it will give you a much clearer idea of how to improve. And for those who don't have riding clips, I also offer online lessons where you can learn how to move your body correctly by practicing things like flex and extend your joints, hinge at your hips, and get your board on edge. If you're interested, send me a DM on Instagram. This season I'll mainly be riding at Sugadeira Ski Resort, but I'll be teaching at other resorts as well, so feel free to reach out if you'd like a lesson. That's it for today's video. Hope it helps, and thanks for watching.